I had one of those pimple patches on. So if you still see the circle there without the pimple patch, you didn't. Anyway, we're going to be chatting about, what are we chatting about? February's wrap up and all the books that I read. I'm also getting caught up on my little book stickers for my book journal. So I'm going to finish cutting these, throw them down on the journal, and then we're going to chat. I also don't have a lot of these in the physical books because I was like going ham on Kindle this month. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, I usually like holding up the actual physical books, but it's not that big of a deal. That shit. And it adds up pretty quick. And even though I do buy a lot of books at like half price books or like I thrift them, that would be a lot of money. And this channel is not big enough for people to be sending me books. So we're going to roll on a budget for now. And maybe we'll manifest some brand deals or something. Or some publishing houses sending me books later this year. They are cut out. We are good to go. I just need to slap these on and then hopefully remember all the books that I read this month. They are in. Ooh. And I also went over, so I did for 8, 12, 18. So I read 18 books in February, and I had to add a little, like 2 extras because I only have 16 spots for each month, which I figured I would run into this eventually, but I am kind of surprised that it happened so early in the year, but who knows? Maybe in March I'll read like 3 books and, you know. Anyway, 18 books in February. This was a very romance heavy month, which I'm sure a lot of people have done. Like February is the month of love, right? Valentine's Day, everyone is like always focusing on romances. These 2 are the only ones that I have in physical copies of. I already mentioned the rest are on Kindle, or I borrowed like the ebooks from my library. So yeah, I went about this in kind of a crazy order, but let's just start with the first book that I read in February. Technically, I think I finished this a couple days into February, and this is House of Sky and Breath, the second Crescent City book. I have yet to get to the 3rd book. I thought I was going to be able to get to Crescent City 3 this month, and I just didn't get to it. And I'm kind of sad about it, but also, I don't know, I tackled a lot of books this month, and it just didn't seem like fantasy was the move, even though I remember being so hopeful for my February TBR. Fantasies after this one just didn't happen. That's not to say like this put me in a slump. I think I just needed a break, and also I knew I was going to be focusing on romance, so I just kind of let it go. I did start Nightbane though. Did not finish it yet, but we're getting there. So be proud of me for that at least. Sarah J Maas makes it so hard to talk about books like throughout her series because the plot is so stacked, and I never want to say something that is going to ruin part of the book for you, but I will say the end of this book destroyed me in such a good way. Not in like destroyed like my soul, but like destroyed me as in I spent so long thinking about it and figuring out where it could lead and what it could mean and what's going to happen next, and overanalyzing every single aspect of this book and the first book. So yeah, great job. Great job, Sarah. And if you want to see more of like my reactions and thoughts between the first and second book, go check out my video. I made a whole video dedicated to just those 2. So that's all we're going to say about that. I did finish You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. This is one I think I've mentioned in the past. I was reading with a friend, so we were kind of going like a couple chapters at a time, and then meeting, making like having a FaceTime and like talking about it. So also, I don't think that I mentioned this was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. So, and then this, I feel kind of weird rating self-help books, but also I feel like they should be rated. Because sometimes, like, I've read so many self-help books that are just absolute shit and they don't say anything in the books. Like, it's just like we're roundabout talking about improving ourselves, but like there's no There's no action steps. There's nothing like actually helpful in the books. That is not this book. Like, I really liked her writing style, for one, because it felt very funny. Like, it felt authentic. It felt like I was just talking to someone and she was telling me all of these stories and helping me kind of work through different aspects of things. I thought it was empowering and I thought it was pretty impactful. I would recommend this one. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And I just think that it really helps with like your money mindset and how you think about money and how just money plays a part in the way you think. It was a very interesting book. I think it's one like you can reread again and get some more nuggets out of it, you know? The next book that I read was the first book in the video where I was reading some of the top romance reads from the Goodreads Choice Awards, top voted picks for 2023. That was the worst explanation I could have used for that. But if you're interested in seeing like my in-depth reviews on those, go check out the video that I did. I'm not going to skip over these. I'll give you my rating and kind of what I thought, but I'm not going to focus too heavily on them. So Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I was obsessed with this book. This was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. And it really like kickstarted the romance obsession for this month in such a good way. I just cannot comprehend the amount of chemistry that the author was able to convey in this book between the two characters. And I just loved literally like every second of this book. And I still think about it constantly. The next book, however, you guys are liars. I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. And I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I thought I was being punked because it didn't make sense to me why it was rated so high. I didn't like the characters really all that much. Didn't understand the love story between them, honestly. I didn't feel the chemistry between them. I thought that everyone just needed to talk more and act like actual friends and these issues wouldn't have been issues. Which I understand, like the overall theme is about how people grow and how friendships grow as you get older. I just didn't, it didn't do it for me. And I was pretty sad about that. I felt like I went from such a high with Yours Truly and then reading Happy Place that I have been thinking about for so long and really excited to read, and getting a 3 out of 5 stars, which to me, like, that's not like a horrible rating. I'm just disappointed. The next book, which technically, if you want to be real about this, after that book, I spiraled and was then worried that I wasn't going to like the other books, you know, that in that video, the top rated books. So I went and read some like really random books, an entire series, 4 books. And that is the Madison Kate series by Tate James. It was very random. It's Hate, Liar, Fake, and Kate. Those titles, all of them got, I didn't even realize this, all of them got a 3 out of 5 stars for me. So honestly, this felt like more like a guilty pleasure type of read than anything. It was not written that well. There were plot holes. It was kind of more like a kind of a mafia romance type of vibe, because it was like gang related, like it was gangs. It was a gang romance. It was spicy. I think that was kind of just it. Like, I needed just something completely different from Happy Place, and then I just kind of got sucked into it. They were really quick reads, so I kind of just like flew through them, it seemed like. It's so funny because like I don't feel like I can deep dive into these books because they did feel like a guilty pleasure. Like, I didn't read them to know that I was going to be like so wrapped up in the story and like feel so many things. It was more so just like a silly, goofy read. And it really was that. So many plot issues, the characters and the development and or lack thereof, and the way they communicated. It's funny looking back on it, and I'm glad that I read them because there were some good aspects. Obviously, if I rated them a 3 out of 5 stars, and I would say like you should read them, but not for like the great writing of it, because that was not it. Anyway, back to this. Was after I finished that series, I figured, yeah, okay, it's time to get back into the top 5 reads or whatever of Goodreads. I'm gonna link that video so you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I read Love Theoretically. I was having such a hard time remembering whether it was Love Theoretically or The Love Hypothesis, and I'm pretty sure I said Love Hypothesis like 90% of the time, either in that video or when I was posting about it. I even wrote it down on my reading journal that I read Love Hypothesis. It's not Love Hypothesis. I read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really cute. I love STEM. I love like a STEM read. I love the main character. I thought she had so much personality conveyed through this story. And I wasn't like the biggest fan of the main male character, but I just thought it was so funny. Like there's a fake dating, but not with the guy, like the main male character. And it's so funny. There were a couple things I wish I had gotten more closure on in some of like the issues between the couples, but it was still great, and I really enjoyed my time reading it. The next book, King of Pride by Anna Huang. We know I'm not the biggest fan of that author. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. This, I believe, is probably the best book that I've read by that author, but it still just felt lacking in some ways. I didn't like the characters. It didn't seem like we learned much about these characters at all. It just seemed like they had like a blank history, and that seemed weird to me. It was good, not great. Moving on. However, we did finish off that video with The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and that was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. So basically, that made it all worth it. It made King of Pride worth it. It made the entire video worth it with yours truly and Abby Jimenez, because this book was stunning. It was written beautifully. I felt like I was there in the apartment with them, and I giggled so many times with these two characters. I just felt like even though they didn't have a whole lot of time together, because they did face a couple of issues that you will learn about if you read the book, it just seemed like it was just filled with good banter, like just good conversations between the two characters that made a lot of sense why they were falling in love. And I just thought overall, like, genius. Like, such a cute story. Now, because of that video and reading all those 5 books, those 5 romance books, I thought, hey, I finished with a 5 out of 5 stars. Why don't I read another romance book? So I hopped on Kindle Unlimited, and I picked one of the first books that popped up, and it happened to be a hockey romance, which I've had decent, like, good luck with hockey romances on Kindle Unlimited. So I figured, okay, we'll try it out. And it was Her Greatest Mistake by Hannah Cohen, and I ended up rating it a 3 out of 5 stars, which I think is generous. Looking back, the two main characters basically grow up together, and then they have this big falling out whenever they're like 18 and about to head off to college. And then the main story takes place, I think, like 8 years later or something. And the main male character is in like the NHL, and the main female character is a vet in the same town. It felt like they kept coming back to the main issue that they had and the whole reason why they fell out whenever they were 18. And that whole reasoning did not make any sense to me whatsoever. So the fact that it kept coming up, the fact that it happened at all, and it was an issue, I just didn't understand. And it felt like it was so hyped up and it was so dramatic, and they were trying to like come to terms with the issue and trying to like move past it. And it's just like, what is there to move past? You guys were kids. I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me. It was based off of that. It just overall, it just felt kind of like a basic story. So it wasn't terrible. It just really, really bothered me that it kept coming back to that main issue, and the issue felt like a non-issue to me. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. So I read the entire Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. As I was like getting through these, I was like, man, I really should have made a video on this specifically. And I'm kind of upset that I didn't, but also here we are. If you're hearing the snoring, the super loud snoring in the background, that's Jamie. So this is like a cowboy romance, but I think technically only one of them is like a farmer cowboy, you know? There are 2 that are rodeo bull riders. Yeah. 2 of them are bull riders. One is a hockey player, which felt really random. to me. Hockey, cowboy, farmer guy. Oh, and the last one is like a military guy, and it's all centered around this family. It was good. Flawless, the first book, I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. This is with one of the rodeo bull riders, and I liked it a lot. Wasn't in love with how they didn't seem to know how to communicate with each other, but it didn't bother me. It wasn't so bad that like it knocked off stars for me, but I did think that they had a lot of chemistry. This second book was a single dad, and that's the cowboy farmer brother. It sounds insane, but this one cracked me up. I gave this also a 4 out of 5 stars, but I think that I liked this book, the second book, better than the first one because I felt like the characters had even more chemistry, and it was hilarious because the main female character is great. I loved her. She's probably my favorite main female character out of the entire series. The next one, I remember I wrote these down in the wrong order, so I'm hoping this is the right order. Okay, so it's Flawless, Heartless, Powerless, I think. And Powerless is probably my least favorite, and this is with the hockey player. The actual aspect of hockey like really isn't brought up all that much, which is good because otherwise it would have like really stuck out. The only thing is, this is probably my least favorite because it really just hinged on the fact that the main male character acted like a rock and had the emotional capacity of one. That's all there is to say about that. Next one was Reckless. This was the fourth book, and I gave that a 4 out of 5 stars. This one reminded me of Elle Kennedy's The Goal, that book. If you've read that one, it's very similar in what happens. I was obsessed with the main male character in this. Not so much the main female character because she is the sister of one of the other main female characters in this series. And I just was really confused how we switched so much because in the other book with the other sister, this girl is painted in such a negative light, and then whenever you get to her in this fourth book, it's totally changed. And I don't know, it just felt like there wasn't really a point where we really understood her, and that kind of bothered me. The fifth book was Hopeless, and I gave that a 3 out of 5 stars also. But this one was more so I felt like I was just let down because if you've read this series, you kind of really get excited for this brother because he's like a secret agent for the Canadian military, and he comes back like with a lot of issues, but it just didn't seem like his problems were dealt with or like really taken seriously, and that kind of bothered me. I also thought that this was, I think they're all kind of an age gap, but this one especially felt a little too much for me because she was 22 and he is 35, and that's just you know, like that's like right on my cusp where it's like, I don't know about that. That kind of freaked me out, you know? So anyway, that was a 3 out of 5 stars. Moving on, the last book that I technically didn't read, I listened to the Audible, was Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was a 4 out of 5 stars for me. I actually thought it was gonna be a 5-star read for me all the way up until probably like the last like 10% of the book. Like I thought I had the 5-star feeling, and then I just kind of lost it towards the end. I feel like it just took you kind of on this journey, like the entire journey of Carrie Soto and her tennis career in this book. It sounds like crazy. It sounds like something that's not going to be interesting, but the way it's written and how passionate and driven and like aggressive towards getting to her goals this main female character is, it's just stunning. Like you're rooting for her every step of the way, even though her character, like her personality is not something like most people I think would jive with, but you still really want her to win. I felt very emotionally connected to it, even though the character herself is not very emotional at all, and I want more. It leaves off in a really good place, and also like the side plot romance aspect of it was eating that shit up. Oh yeah, I would love more of that too. That is all 18 of the books that I read in November. In February. What a month. I don't think I'm going to read that much in March, but we'll see. If you are interested in seeing what I am planning on reading for March, be sure to look out for that video on Friday. It is coming out on my TBR. It's probably going to look quite a bit different than this month, but I am excited. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.